To House Education. We'll just begin with the roll call, and then we're going to be picking up with Senate File 162. My understanding, although I wasn't here last meeting, I was in Senate Judiciary, but that we have closed the public testimony on Senate File 162, and we're going to work the bill. So with that, Ashley, would you do the roll call?
Absolutely. For House Education, February 21st, 2025, Representative Bratton.
Here.
Representative Erickson.
Here.
Representative Guggenmoss.
Here.
Representative Kelly.
Here.
Vice Chair Lawley.
Here.
Representative Singh is excused.
Excuse. Yes.
Representative Strock.
Here.
Representative Williams.
Here.
Chairman Andrew.
Excused.
You have a quorum.
Thank you, Ashley. All right, committee, what is your pleasure on Senate File 162? Okay. Hearing no motion, then Senate File 162 will die for lack of a motion. So committee, or excuse me, our next bill for consideration is Senate File 5. And I believe, I don't know who's gonna, oh, there you are. My friend, Representative John Winters, thank you for being here. And we do have, just so you know, there is a person online that wants to speak in support. So I don't know if any other people are here for that, but we do have someone online for you for that, for this bill.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. My name is John Winter from, I represent District 28 in the Bighorn Basin. And I have Senate File number 5 here to explain for you folks. It's a very simple bill, and it was requested from the superintendent of schools in Meeteetse. And it's a very rural school. They don't have or don't need a lot of school buses, and they're having trouble getting people to that have the license to drive those school buses. So they've resorted to using Suburbans to go pick kids up in certain areas. So this bill specifies that school district vehicles that are not school buses and are used for transporting students may display flashing lights as specified. And so the following vehicles are authorized to display these flashing white and amber lights in addition to those otherwise authorized by law. The vehicles that will be able to do this would be ones owned, leased, or registered to a public school district that are not school buses and that are used to transport children to or from school or in connection with school activities. And that's the extent of the bill. So I would try to answer any questions for you.
Thank you, Representative Winters. Any questions from the committee? Representative Kelly.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a clarification. So this would not allow these Suburbans to have like that stop sign that swings out and flashes red?
Madam Chairman and Representative Kelly, that they're not planning to use signs as far as I know, just be lights.
Any other questions? Thank you, Chairman Winter. Good to see you, and we'll stick around. Is there any public testimony on Senate File 5?
Madam Chair, Boyd Brown, Executive Director of the Wyoming Association of School Administrators, support this
bill. To answer Representative Kelly's question, it would not have the swing out stop signs. They would be amber or white lights that would be flashing on top. It's a safety issue, especially along the road up there by Matitsi with all of the traffic that goes through for oil fields and different things like that. It just lets people know that they're there. On our school buses, we already have the ability to put the white or amber flashing lights on top. So it's just a safety issue for us, and we would hope that you'd support that. With that, I'll take questions.
All right. Any questions for Mr. Brown? You got off easy today. Happy Friday. Go ahead.
Madam Chair, Nick Bellack, Wyoming School Boards Association. Speaking in support of this for a couple of reasons. Number one, this is part of our advocacy agenda, which is keeping kids safe, school safety. This is totally in line with that. I'll also speak from a personal anecdote. I was traveling for the state between Matisse and Cody one time, and the only reason I got to Cody was because of the rumble strip. So it's definitely needed up there, and anything that can allow a little bit more safety is definitely something that we will advocate for. With that, I'll stand for any questions.
Any questions? You're going to get one. Representative Kukumas.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Would the same rules apply as far as when a bus has a sign out, nobody can pass? If it's just a Suburban with lights, are we going to run into issues with people trying to pass and creating a safety issue there?
Madam Chair, Representative Gugamos, I don't believe there's going to be any issues. This is really almost looking at this from a construction vehicle standpoint where there is flashing lights, you still can pass it. It's not a restrictive thing. It's really just to call out attention, almost like a reflector would do, just to ensure that there's safety.
Thank you. Other questions? Thank you so much. Anyone else want to speak to this bill? Senate File 5. Oops,
Madam
see-
Chair, you do have one online.
That's right. Thank you for that reminder. Ashley, could you go ahead and let, looks like it's Shane Ogden.
Absolutely. He's joining the room now.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Shane Ogden, Superintendent at Park County School District 16 in that glorious town of Matitsi. And to answer some of the questions about the safety issue, really where we see this is as we travel any road, and I think it would apply anywhere in the state, but oftentimes those 2-lane roads are 70 miles an hour. And if we are needing to make a left-hand turn and say the weather is not very good, it just provides an alert for the people behind that there's something ahead. And I think we generally see that when they see a light, they're going to slow down a little bit. There's no prohibit of them passing the vehicles or anything like that. And as we talk about efficiencies and maybe using, when we only have 2 or 3 kids, it doesn't make sense to be driving buses all around the state. And so it would also include our activities to make sure that we can get kids there safely. And most of the time, I assume that the lights would not have to be on, but certainly in the bad weather, just like the buses have those giant strobes on top during foggy and cloudy weather, that's when it would be of the most benefit to us. So I certainly appreciate the bringers of this bill and the support that it's received, and would stand for any questions.
Any questions for Superintendent Ogden? You did such a great job
Thank you.
answering all those questions. Truly, you did. And thank you for being here. In my district, it includes the 10 Sleep School, and I think this would benefit them greatly too. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, anyone else come in the room that might want to speak to the bill? Senate File 5? Seeing none, we will close public testimony on Senate File number 5. Bill has been moved by Representative Strzok and seconded by Representative Kukumas. All right, discussion committee.
I think it's a great bill. Let's just vote on it.
Yeah, I think that's a call for the question. What do you guys think? All right, All right, Ashley, we're voting on Senate File 5.
Madam Chair, on Senate File 5, school district vehicles flashing lights authorized do pass. Representative Bratton,
Aye.
Representative Erickson,
Aye.
Representative Guggenmoss,
Aye.
Representative Kelly,
Aye.
Vice Chair Lawley,
Aye.
Representative Singh has left an absentee vote of aye. Representative Strock,
Aye.
Representative Williams,
Aye.
and Chairman Andrew has left an absentee vote of aye. So that is 9 ayes.
All right, thank you for that. Our last bill for today is Senate File 86, and I see a familiar person approaching us. It's good to see you, Senator Larson, and we look forward to hearing from you on Senate File 86. So if you'll want to go ahead with your presentation of the bill, and we'll move forward.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I better get this closer, maybe. Dan Larson here, like you said, bringing Senate File 86. I think we got it pretty concise over in the Senate when we did some amendments. Just a little history on this. I brought a very similar bill 2 years ago and have had trouble. I was told at that time, it got over to the House in this committee and it died. And I was told at that time that the Wyoming Professional Teaching Standards Board could deal with this internally with just rules. We gave them 2 years. They have not satisfied it to my, what I think should have been done. There are currently, there's 4 entities nationally that do some of them do it online, others I think maybe, I'm not sure. I do know the one I'm working with is the American Board. They do an online alternative teaching certificate thing in other states, about 15 to 19 of them, but they do it online over 6 months. It costs like $1,900, and it specifically kind of reaches out to those people that might have been in a job for quite some time. They might be like 40 years old. They might be tired of being an accountant. They got a degree in math or whatever from a university, and they want to go and see if they want to be a teacher. And so they would take an online course through one of these programs, and after 6 months, and they would take pedagogy tests, exams, an exam on the specific, if they were wanting to go to high school and teach math, they'd have to make sure they could pass an exam on what is taught in like in a math course. But we had trouble getting that through the Professional Teachers Standards Board to make this available. One of the big reasons was, I guess I should say, the board does have some exception authorizations that you can go through to get to be a teacher in schools. Option 7 is one that gets really close to allowing this, but in there they require that if you're going through a program like this, it had to be accredited, and these programs are not accredited. And so that's why I have some wording in our bill. These programs are not connected to colleges or universities, and they would have a very difficult time getting accredited. And one of the reasons they said they've already been through a program, they've got a baccalaureate degree in a university, so they've been already through a program that is accredited. So in my bill, it says they could be accredited or not accredited. And then another part was that currently in option 7, a superintendent must request a person to come and fill a position. And I just don't think that's right. I think if a person could go through an alternative program, they should be able to go out through the state and apply at any district. They shouldn't have to have a superintendent request that this position's open, and we've tried to find people to fill it. We're having a difficult time, and this is the guy I want. So we got that in the bill too. So I'll go through the bill and then maybe you have some more questions. It's very simple. We go to statute 212802, and that's powers and duties of the teacher certification, and goes through all that, suspension or revocation anyway. So we go to section A, board shall promulgate rules and regulations. We're under double I. In addition to paragraph AI of this section, the board shall, by rule and regulation, provide for. And then we're going to add a new section D. And I think I'm just going to read it because that pretty much tells it all. Alternative certification of teachers that requires a baccalaureate degree from an accredited college or university. And then, after say 20 years, they have and successful completion of an accredited or non-accredited alternative certification program approved by the board at a minimum that requires passage of a subject area examination, pedagogy examination, that's to teach you how to teach. And then in our certification teachers, you already have to pass a test on constitutional examination, Wyoming Constitution examination. So we put that in there. And then issuance of this alternative certification shall be limited to the subject area and grade levels successfully completed by the applicant. And then we added the after successful completion of an alternative certification program, the applicant may apply for employment with a school district without prior request by the superintendent. So we wanted to make sure they didn't include what they already have in option 7. So that's the bill. I'm not sure up on line 9 if we might need a little bit of amendment there. I didn't think about it, but I think the alternatives where it's required a baccalaureate degree, I think that should tie to the subject they want to teach. So I don't know what the wording ought to be there, but I kind of wonder if we shouldn't put something in there. And I'm not sure if I have a suggestion. That similarly, a baccalaureate degree, I don't know what to put there. I'm hoping I might get some help from the audience or you guys. But anyway, I think we did a very good job.
Thank you so much, Senator Larson. Any questions for the good senator? Representative Kelly.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm looking here at the non-accredited alternative certification. And a little background to the question. I have no issue with online education. It's my career, 100% online university. However, we are accredited by the Higher Learning Commission, which is incredibly rigorous and ongoing and does many major universities. What is the quality control for these non-accredited alternative certifications? How do we know that their certification really is worth their salt?
Madam Chairwoman,
Yes.
we're having these 4 that do that are not going to get accredited because, like I said before, they are not tied to a university, and that's probably why you're not getting the big fee to get the alternative certification. I don't know how you're going to. I don't know what to say there. We will not be able to go through these programs if that's something that somebody wants to do. I think we need to find a way that it could be a little bit cheaper and maybe not so intensive. The thing I would say is they've already got a degree through an accredited university or college, and I think that should be enough. The other thing I would say is they've been out in society, most likely, for 20 years working in business, and I think that helps. Hopefully that helps a little.
Any other questions? Representative Bratton.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. So I just want to clarify that this basically allows the PTSB to certify teachers who have a BS, BA degree, complete an alternative certification program that meets with a certain minimums and that they approve of. So it seems that the PTSB is the one that is kind of accrediting them. Am I reading that correctly?
I don't know if they are. I think they're just saying that this could be a way to go to get your accreditate or your teaching certificate. You know, they're going to have to bring some other rules and regs, but I want to be very specific that they don't make these alternative ways of getting this to be accredited and non-accredited. I'm sure they're going to come up here and tell us that that has to be the way it is. But we will not have these options. And like if they take that out.
Oh, I wasn't, Madam Chairman.
Representative Bratton.
Thank you. I wasn't suggesting that. I was just saying that basically because it's under that section, it still allows them to approve of that. So,
Yes.
okay, great. Thank
Yes,
you.
I would say that. And I'm hoping they come up with rules and regs. You know, that doesn't say that if you went and taught at a district that you're a teacher, you got your certification. You know, I think they can come up with rules. I hope they aren't too restrictive. You know, maybe they say you have to be under a mentorship with another teacher or the principal or whichever for a year. I hope it's not too long that they'd have to do that, but I would think there would be a time frame where they got to prove that they can do what they're doing, you know, with the district. And this says nothing. They don't have to hire them. You know, it's an option. We are short of teachers. If there's some people that are out there that maybe are tired of their job, you know, I think they have a lot of probably are already taking some CTE position people out of like welding or something and putting them into welding, but this gives us another option.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you, Senator Larson, and we'll see about public comment. There are 2 people online, I noticed, for the bill, so we'll make sure we get to them as well.
Hopefully I might be able to comment after they're done. because-
Absolutely. We'd welcome you to. Any department have any position on this or want to speak? All right, thanks for being here. Go ahead, we'll just open up public testimony.
Good afternoon, Chairwoman Lawley and members of the House Education Committee. My name is Brendan O'Connor. I am the Executive Director of the Professional Teaching Standards Board. And it is true that this bill came through in 2023, and it did die in this committee at that time. Our board in 2023 at their March meeting looked at this particular provider that the senator mentioned, and the board was concerned about that particular provider. Deliberated during that meeting, decided not to go forward at that time. Came back in June at their meeting. We had some proposed rules again set for the board. They deliberated for a couple of hours and put in language that it should be accredited. And so I believe there are avenues for these providers to become accredited. There may be some other obstacles for some of those providers. I'm not sure all of the 4. One was specifically called out. That one has not been accredited. Other ones that are non-college-based alternative routes are available. They are accredited through other means. So there are a number of options. The bill as amended really just fits with what we can do right now without a person even paying the $2,000 for that one particular program. We have a professional industry career permit that allows Traditionally, it's been used more for the trade areas, getting welding teachers in, construction trades, automotive, those things. But over the past 7 years, the board has been more flexible in working with districts to get people from the community, job changers, career changers to come in. I understand Representative Kelly has university experience. This would be an avenue for him to work in the K-12 schools. I know there's other legislators who are work in higher education. Most higher education professors, if they wanted to work at K-12, they probably wouldn't want to be told, oh, you have to go complete a teacher prep program. I've been doing that. So we accept that experience. We can get them in on the professional industry career permit. We have other ways of getting people from the community into classrooms. We do have some oversight once they are in there. Our exception authorization, option 7 that the senator mentioned, I just want to clarify a few points. It does allow applicants who are hired by a school district and are enrolled in or have completed, in this case, accredited alternative route program not associated, will be eligible for this exception authorization. So as the language that we have in our rules that have been in place since 2023, the person could complete the program prior to getting hired as it is. So they wouldn't necessarily need the district permission to get enrolled in it. They could already be completed with it. And then we go through, we do have them on 2 years for this exception authorization, allows them that time to get some mentorship, get practice in the classroom. Typically, the one program that was mentioned does not have any student teaching, does not have any observation hours required in the program. You're paying your fees, they're sending you test preparation materials, you take the test at home, and that's it. And so our 2 years aligns with what other states, the 15 others or so, that have approved that one particular program. They typically have provisional licenses for those candidates for 2 years. They go through a mentorship program. In our rules, we just say if the individual successfully completes 2 evaluations from the school district, they would be eligible then to transition to full licensure. So I believe that as amended, the language allows us to do what we already do. And so I would stand for any questions.
Any questions? Representative Bratton.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. How many teachers has the PTSB certified on that alternative approach? I think you said it was option 7 in the last year.
Madam Chairwoman, Representative Bratton, for that, because the one program that's been mentioned, they haven't been approved to operate, so I can't answer that, but we have used that particular one as of when I ran this report in January. We had 2 candidates who were eligible who came through different programs that we've had on that.
Any other questions? Yes. Representative Erickson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Not necessarily so much of a question, but while Mr. O'Connor is here, I want to talk about some things that have been taking place over the last few years, and I've heard nothing but good about your willingness to work with additional people. And when I certified years ago and then recertified, we used to call it the PTSD board. And I would compliment you on how much that's changed, and not throwing anybody under the bus, but it was very difficult to work with. But since we've seen this major shift towards having a hard time finding certified teachers and recruiting teachers, I would compliment you on your ability to move forward with what you're doing to be able to allow that. And so I again, just my hat's off to you about that. And and where you're moving and what you're doing on that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, thank you, Representative Erickson.
Yes, thank you. Any other questions? Representative Kelly.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I think I'm hearing this correctly. The argument I'm hearing here is that this bill is superfluous. I mean, you already can do these things. I am hearing from the other side that this is adding more flexibility. So I'd like to understand, what is the potential harm of this bill? What bad do you see coming from this if this were to become law?
Representative,
Yes,
Chairwoman Lawley, Representative Kelly.
yes. Mr. O'Connor.
That's a good question. I guess if it passes, it would allow the board to approve one of those non-accredited programs, and then we could get some candidates through and see if they last or not. And then we would actually have some data that then we could come back and say, we let them in and they lasted 2 years and then never got fully lost, that's an example. I have no idea.
Follow up? Yeah, thank you. Mr. O'Connor, again, I think we're kind of trying to understand, really what it boils down to is this fact that this bill uses the word non-accredited. Is that what I'm hearing from you, that basically that's the issue where you see the harm could happen, and that you would like it to not include that, non-accredited? Is that pretty close?
Chairwoman Lawley, yes, that's an accurate summation of the discussions that the board had for many hours. The K-12 schools in Wyoming are accredited. The community colleges are accredited. The University of Wyoming is accredited. The institution that Representative Kelly mentioned is accredited. Accreditation, in the language that one of my board members used, is the coin of the realm,
Yeah.
so to speak. And so that was their sticking point on that. And there may be options for that one particular entity to become accredited. I don't know, I haven't followed through. I know that there's a distance learning accrediting body. That would have been my suggestion for them to review, but they may not be eligible for that. I don't know.
Just kind of switch subjects a little bit, the issue of cost difference and for some folks to be able to, I guess there is some kind of a cost difference between the accredited versus non-accredited. Could you speak to that?
Chairwoman Lawley, the best that I can speak to that is I have seen those cost differences. The one program that was mentioned is just under $2,000. There are other accredited programs that we do recommend people look into that do include observation hours, student teaching hours. They are associated with colleges, and those are roughly $6,000 to $7,000, and can be completed within a year or 2 years. Other than that, I don't know. I don't know if the accreditation is necessarily what triggers the variance in cost.
Thank you. I understand that we wouldn't know that, but it's good to know those numbers. Do you know if there's any availability for aid and loans? Is it different if it's accredited or non-accredited to qualify, for someone to qualify for financial assistance?
Representative Lawley, I'm not an expert on student loans or financial aid, but I do believe that colleges do need to be accredited in order to be eligible for those.
Thank you. Thank you.
Or,
Go
sorry,
ahead.
I misspoke. Institutions that are providing those would be, not necessarily colleges.
Thank you. Any other questions? Representative Bratton.
Thank you, Chairwoman. So I think I heard him say that there were four of these groups that they were interested maybe in making available for the PTSB to look at. And I'm curious, who accredits who does the accreditation and who's on the board of those accrediting agencies that are overseeing this?
Chairwoman Lawley, Representative Bratton, if I understand your question, you're asking who accredits those institutions or those program providers. So there are lists available from the U.S. Department of Education of approved accrediting organizations. There is also a body called the Council of Higher Education Accreditation. Most people reference it as CHIA, not to be confused with the little plant that grows on your desk. But they have their own standards. There's a variety of programs that are that. The Higher Learning Commission, which was mentioned earlier, is an approved body that does that. There are regional accreditors. There are programmatic accreditors, like programs that teach nursing, that teach chiropractic medicine, that teach all sorts of accounting, I believe, all number of things. There are different accrediting bodies that are recognized both by the U.S. Department of Education and CHIA.
Follow up? Anyone else? I have one more for you, Mr. O'Connor. So if we were to delete, for example, on page 2, the or unaccredited alternative, I'm not saying we would, but I'm trying to understand what you're telling us in terms of, would that in effect be what you already do? Or what you already have the authority to do, I guess is what I'm trying to understand.
Chairwoman Lawley, if you struck the word non-accredited, then that would align with the rules that we've had in place since 2023.
Okay.
And we would be doing, could do what we have been doing.
Is that what has been referred to as option 7, or is there, okay,
Yes.
all right. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. Let's go on. Mr. Mullen, you want, sorry. Welcome back.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Nick Bellack, Wyoming School Boards Association. Thank you, members of the committee. So I'll start off by saying that I'd like to kind of take the genesis of this bill, where it started off. I'll give a little bit of my background. For the past 7 years, I've been around the country at a global education testing company that followed teacher licensure and certification. I have experience in over 30 states, and I've seen this exact bill as boilerplate in many different states, and have heard the arguments of why so many different states have really refused to accept it. One of the things that people most state with this is that it lowers the expectations. As we look at the program, 14 states have accepted this in the 25 years that the program has existed. There's a lot of heartburn with how the program actually is run. I can say in the last couple of years, they lost their nonprofit status. It's very hard to find out who their board members are, who's actually governing it. And I've actually heard that from some colleagues around the nation that people can get through this in as little as a couple weeks if they pass the test and put all of their things together. So I guess what we're talking about here is accreditation versus non-accreditation is what is giving a person a license to teach, and what does it take to actually teach? And we can talk about subject matter, but what about pedagogy? What about special education law, IDEA? What about all the things that are part and parcel of being a teacher? And what does that impart on the educators that are actually there? And I guess that goes into the main concerns that the School Boards Association has with this. We have an advocacy item on our agenda. I talked about in my last testimony about our school safety. This agenda item number 2 is being prepared for the future. We support an educational program that provides students with world-class educational opportunities and prepares them for the future. And specifically around the non-accredited language, how can, on one hand, we lower expectations and reduce the standards for preparation of educators, On the other hand, maintain the rigorous expectation we have for Wyoming public schools. It just doesn't seem to mesh right there. So lowering our expectations is exactly what this has the potential to do. And perhaps it'll even open up the floodgates to do that. In education, we say that, with students, it's a slow bullet. We kill kids slowly. And as we erode the standards, that's how this potentially manifests itself. Because when we don't supply them the prepared educators to do that, we could be taking away the potential that they have and the opportunity that they have in the future. And this happens year over year in our system. So members are most comfortable, I think as it was related before by Representative Erickson, with working with the 13-member Professional Teaching Standards Board, because they represent a cross-section of education and they are boots on the ground working in our school systems. And they are coming up in this last 7 years. And we applaud that, and we can only share how exceptional that relationship has been. In my previous position, I was also assigned to the state of Wyoming, and I did work with the Professional Teaching Standards Board. And I've seen the progression of that. And I have to say that the districts that we represent and the boards that we represent are very much happy with how we've responded to that, really trying to thread the needle of what's appropriate expectations and how do we read reality truthfully and respond responsibly given the situation. So with that, I think, as the bill is right now, PTSB is being told to do its job, and I think it's been doing its job. And I really kind of would consider the necessity of this at all, and really emphasize the danger of lowering standards. And with that, I'll stand for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Bellick? Any questions? You got off easy.
I guess so.
Thank you for being here.
Madam Chairwoman, members of the committee, my name is Tate Mullen, Government Relations Director for the Wyoming Education Association. I won't belabor a lot of the same concerns, but again, I do appreciate any effort that anybody undertakes to improve our pipeline. We know that we need good quality educators in our classrooms, and those folks can come from a variety of backgrounds. That's important, but I do want to reiterate quality educators, because everything's a trade-off, right? So if we reduce that quality through programs such as this, something that can be done in 3 months or per last testimony, potentially 2 weeks, you're going to reduce the quality of educator in that classroom. What we know for a fact is one of the greatest contributors to student performance and student success is a quality educator in that classroom. I'd like for you to think about some of the things that we've been hearing across the state for a number of years now. We've seen a number of student behavioral issues. Those issues have increased in frequency as well as severity. I also would like to reiterate the concern about IDEA, our special education students. And if you can just visualize somebody who has taken a test on a computer or done this for 3 months and never set foot in a classroom, and having to deal with students with behavioral issues, having to manage that classroom, having to comply with all of those pieces that are part of IDEA. That should give at least some significant pause. I think the other piece to that as well is that I think we've all had that educator that, yeah, they knew that material, but educating is so much more than just knowing material. It's being able to talk to students, connect with them. So just because somebody has a bachelor's degree doesn't mean that they're necessarily going to be fit for the classroom. The last thing I'd like to mention in terms of what PTSB is already doing with that PIC licensure piece, there is a provision in there that does require, a continuing education plan. We always want to make sure that that's growing, that those folks that are in those classrooms are moving towards understanding that classroom management and all of those important pieces. It feels like this particular program is take a test, walk into the classroom, good luck. So again, I don't believe the bill is necessary. I believe the potential harm to student learning is pretty significant with this. And I'd ask for your no vote, and I'll stand for any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Mullen? Yeah, Representative Straub.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Listening to everyone, I think my biggest question is, what is the fear of this? I'm not understanding. The school board can still, I mean, people, they can still choose to use these teachers or not, these people coming in. And like you said, it takes a special person to teach. How do you know you're not going to lose some of these special people by not allowing them to try this and come through it this way? I'm not sure how this is going to, what this is the fear of us implementing, maybe putting this in there.
Mr. Mullen.
Thank you.
Madam Chairwoman, Representative Strzok, great question. So I think there's a couple of pieces to answer this. First and foremost, my biggest concern is that, again, that trade-off, the quality of educator. And we know that it takes a certain type of program to get folks, and there's a range of those. This one seems to be kind of the bottom tier of that. We don't want to sacrifice our student performance. We don't want to put those students who have behavioral issues at risk, special education students. Really, the biggest component is those folks have never set foot in a classroom. When you go through a regular program, you get that time, right? You get that student teaching time, you get that pedagogy time, you get to see what that looks like. You learn from people who have done this work for years and years and years. So that's a substantial concern. We do want to make sure that we are utilizing a broad pipeline to draw folks in, but again, we want to make sure that it is quality folks and a quality program that continue to contribute to our great education system.
Any follow-up? Any other questions for Mr. Mullen? Seems like you got off pretty easy today, too. All right.
Madam Chair, Boyd Brown, Executive Director for the Wyoming Association of School Administrators. I want to start off just by bragging about our school system in Wyoming to start off with. As you guys are aware, I know that you hear it probably on the floor frequently, number one in the United States for the ACT assessment for the states that make everyone take the assessment this last year. Should be very proud of that. We kind of like to say that we're fifth in the nation on the NAEP assessment, the only one west of the Mississippi that's in the top 5. So you guys should be proud of the education system that we have out there. Again, and I've been a member of the Wyoming Professional Teaching and Standards Board. Whenever I was a high school principal, I was the rep for that. And those people take that job very seriously. I would tell you that the Professional Teaching and Standards Board has been very accommodating to school districts in getting students or getting teachers certified, whether it's an emergency certification and working through that, an alternative certification like the PIC certification, option number 7. There are many options out there for people to do that. Most of them are much less expensive than what we're talking about. The one nice thing that the Professional Teaching and Standards Board does with school districts is they allow us to work with them to put together the professional development plan for those people, whether they need that information on pedagogy, whether they need information on the material that they're teaching, or whether they need information on student behaviors, IEPs, whatever they need to have to be successful as they move forward. They work with the district on that. This does not have that option. The bill that came forward to the Senate Education Committee was specifically written for one company, the college boards. And the Senate Education Committee amended that out and put back in the 2023 language that was in there. Then it was amended on the floor to take accredited programs out, and then it was also amended that superintendents would not have to approve you for that. So again, I think that there's a work to try to get some things in there for a company that is a for-profit company. I think that the Professional Teaching and Standards Board has the ability to work with them if they get accredited to do what they're supposedly doing right now. There is not a requirement for student teaching or observation in this program. And so for all of those reasons, I think that there's not a reason to do this. The Professional Teaching and Standards Board has been very accommodating. Executive Director O'Connor has been real easy to work with, such as Representative Erickson said. And with that, I'll answer questions.
Thank you, Mr. Boyd. Any questions for Mr. Boyd? I'm Brown? I'm sorry. His first name's Boyd. Good afternoon. Introduce yourself to the committee and please tell us what you want to tell us about this bill.
Thank you, Chairwoman Lawley. I appreciate it. My name is Patricia McCoy, and I am here representing all 5 chapters of Moms for Liberty in Wyoming. We are calling ourselves Moms for Liberty Wyoming if we are all speaking together. We are in favor of this bill. Wyoming faces a growing teacher shortage, compounded by a certification system that creates unnecessary barriers for highly qualified professionals. Our current model fundamentally misunderstands how expertise translates into effective teaching. Engineers with decades of applied mathematics experience, technicians who've trained apprentices on cutting-edge systems, and retired tradespeople with generational knowledge are locked out of classrooms not because they lack ability, but because of the rigid bureaucratic requirements prioritizing educational theory over real-world mastery. Take an engineer who's spent years solving complex problems and mentoring new hires. That's teaching, practical, proven, and predating formal credentials. Or consider a tradesperson who's passed down skills through hands-on guidance for decades. These professionals are deemed unqualified simply because they haven't jumped through costly, time-intensive certification hoops, often costing $20,000 to $40,000, and 1 to 2 years of additional training focused on abstract theories that don't reflect classroom realities. Current pedagogical programs too often emphasize theoretical constructs over practical skills. They push one-size-fits-all frameworks that reduce students to categories, sidelining real-world resolution and the dynamic nature of teaching. They impose financial burdens and stifle diverse viewpoints, fostering a uniform teaching pool that fails to reflect the varied industries and environments our students will encounter, ultimately undermining the richness and relevance of their education. Our students deserve better than this. Our educators who bring authentic, current expertise to the classroom. Empowering local school districts to make hiring decisions based on fundamental knowledge, not checklists, is the key. Wyoming could lead the nation by expanding local hiring authority to fit community needs, prioritizing subject matter expertise over unrelated credentials, opening pathways for experienced professionals to contribute directly, and valuing diverse forms of teaching experience beyond traditional molds. This isn't just about filling vacancies. It's about bridging the gap between academic learning and real-world application. By rethinking how we recruit talent, Senate File 86 can address our workforce challenges while enriching education with voices from industry, trades, and beyond. Wyoming has a chance to set a new standard, trusting districts to identify excellence where it truly exists, in passion, expertise, and a commitment to students. Thank you, and I stand for any questions.
Thank you so much. Any questions? Thank you. Representative Erickson.
Thank you. I can go by McKay too, both last names.
Yes.
I would have a question. I heard you mention abstract educational theory. Can you give me a Wyoming example of that? I mean, when it comes to what let me lay my mind around what do you mean by the concern that you have by abstract educational theory in Wyoming?
Thank you, Chairwoman Lawley. Representative Erickson, I appreciate the question. For us, in seeing how these pedagogies get translated into our educational system, it focuses more on the pedagogies than the actual education of the children. And I have a perfect example of that in Wyoming, actually, a personal one. This year, my son is taking Algebra 2 in one of our schools here in Cheyenne. I called a parent-teacher conference with that teacher and the principal because I was concerned about how my son was struggling. I know it's his worst subject, so I knew I was going to have these meetings anyway. But in that meeting, when I gave the teacher and the principal my concerns and the lack of support from that teacher when my son asked for help, that teacher looked me dead in the face in front of the principal and said, well, I don't know how to do math either. And he is certified and accredited through our boards and teaching Algebra 2 to all of the students in that school because he's the only Algebra 2 teacher. So while he's accredited and he's certified, he's telling everyone else he doesn't know how to do the math that he's teaching. So how am I, as a parent, supposed to trust that he's going to teach my student Algebra 2, which I'll be honest, I'm not very good at myself, but how am I supposed to help if he's got a teacher that doesn't even know how to teach it to him, doesn't know how to do it himself? That teacher should be allowed to stay and keep teaching all of those kids. How many other kids are failing that class like my son because they can't get the questions answered that they have? When the teacher shrugs his shoulders and walks away when you ask for help on an assignment. But he's certified and accredited, so we're supposed to trust that he's doing the best job for our children. I don't think that the certification and the accreditation in that situation really fits the bill on properly teaching our children how to do math. Just my thoughts.
Yeah, have you heard from others in this district? I find that very strange that no one else has addressed that. I mean, were there other parents that shared that same concern about that teacher?
Representative Lawley, or Chairwoman Lawley, my apologies. Representative Erickson, thank you for the follow-up. Yes, I have spoken to several parents in all three school districts, like school triads in this community. He's not the only teacher. There are others in all three high schools alone. I won't even get started on the junior highs, but just in the three high schools alone, there are multiple teachers that don't know how to teach the subject matter that they're supposed to be teaching, but they are in that class. I could give you 2 other examples of teachers at my son's school alone. I mean, his culinary teacher is not educated in culinary, and so they don't do as much as they should be doing in practical, hands-on learning with like baking and cooking and measurements and things like that. He gets more of that from me at home than he gets in his culinary 2 class at school. The Spanish teacher that they used to have was excellent. The Spanish teacher they have now doesn't really know how to properly speak and teach Spanish. So my son is constantly trying to say, but isn't it supposed to be this way like I learned last year? Oh, no, just go with what I'm telling you. But they're all certified, they're all accredited, and they're all in our schools.
Follow-up? Thank you. Any other question? Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. Have a nice day.
Any other public testimony in the room before we go online? All right, I think there's 2, Ashley, online.
Yes, Madam Chair. We've
you.
got Coral Johnson joining now, and then Isabel Welch next.
Okay, thank you. Hello.
Hello, I'm Coral Johnson. I am from Kemmerer. My family moved to Wyoming just over 2 years ago when my husband was hired by the Lincoln County Library System as a librarian here in Lincoln County. When I came, I anticipated being able to transfer my Idaho teaching license to Wyoming to be a teacher here as well. Unfortunately, that's not been possible due to our current teacher licensure requirements. As a background, I studied elementary deaf education at Utah State University. I finished all the educational studies in that program except for my student teaching. Unfortunately, I needed to take a sabbatical from college, and then when I returned, circumstances required me to change my major. I graduated with a Bachelor of Arts in Accounting, followed by a Master's of Accounting in Financial Planning and Taxation. Throughout all that time, I worked as a tutor. I was helping with math instruction for the Student Services Team, which is the IEP program at the college level, and through the Student Athletics Department. Upon graduation, I continued to work as a math teacher or math tutor to students wherever we lived. About 5 years ago, I was very fortunate while we were living in Idaho to be given the opportunity to qualify for my teacher licensure through the ABCTE process that Senator Larson described. In Idaho, that process requires, in addition to the passing the examinations, 3 years of mentorship through a district. I have my K-8 elementary education certificate in Idaho. I also have completed the ABCTE 6 through 12 mathematics proficiency, and I'm working on my 3 years mentorship with that as well currently. I have been employed as a teacher by Braintree Educational Services since August of 2020, and I love my position. Currently, Braintree Educational Services works with school districts in Idaho, North Dakota, Arizona, Indiana, Oklahoma, and in Wyoming through Western School District number 7. I'm lucky that I've been able to continue my employment with Braintree supporting our students in Idaho. In addition, I recently was able to transfer my teacher license to Oklahoma with dual certificates in mathematics 612 and elementary K through 8. With that license transfer, I now, in addition to supporting my students in Idaho, support Braintree's Oklahoma students as the math teacher for their junior high program. So after discussing with the PTSB at length, when I moved here and throughout the last 2 years, I've been told that regardless of my extensive education through USU and the ABCTE process, my almost 5 years of professional teaching experience, I'm not qualified to teach in Wyoming because I didn't complete student teaching in my teacher training. I was told that in order to qualify for certification, I would need to register for yet another teaching alternative program that, in addition to the cost, would require me to retake all those classes for a third time. 2 weeks ago, in the Lincoln County School Board number 1 school board meeting, the board approved the resignations of 5 elementary teachers. Canyon Elementary only has 20 classroom teachers, which means 1/4 of our classroom teachers are leaving. It's difficult to recruit qualified teachers to small towns like Kemmerer. So this proposed legislation would recognize that individuals like myself have a college degree, and here in the wording, I would add in a related field of their teaching subject to qualify that an electrician or an engineer isn't asking to be a kindergarten teacher, and that they have taken courses through potentially non-accredited alternative certification programs that verify that not only do they know the material they will teach, which we just heard could be an issue, that teachers don't know their material, but also that they have the pedagogy mastery to teach them. This bill would allow individuals with college degrees who have a desire to become teachers in Wyoming the ability to do so, and it would still maintain the qualities of teachers our children, including my own 6 school-age children, deserve. I welcome any questions you might have for me.
Thank you, Mrs. Johnson. Anyone have questions for Mrs. Johnson? Seeing none, we thank you for joining us and thank you for your testimony. Ashley, I guess Isabella Welch? Ah, there she is.
Hello. Chairwoman Lowry, thank you for having me this afternoon. My name is Isabel Welch, and I am the Director of Government Affairs with American Board. One of the things that have been discussed several times during today's session, and also one of the organizations who would be eligible to operate under this bill. So I wanted to give you a little bit of history about American Board's program. We were founded in 2001 by the United States Department of Education. We have been operating for over 20 years. We currently are operating in 14 states, and we have certified nearly 20,000 teachers. Among those 14 states that we operate in, we have several of Wyoming's neighbors, including Nebraska, Montana, and Idaho. I wanted to highlight our program in Montana a little bit. It is our most recent addition, and we also recently had a meeting with their State Board of Education. And so since we began operating in Montana a little less than a year ago, we have had over 100 candidates enroll in our program, and we have filled over 60 teaching positions with American Board trained candidates. And that is across 38 school districts in Montana. We've been, keeping close touch with the candidates in our program and with the hiring principals and administrators. And when we reached out to those principals and administrators, 100% of them said that they were satisfied with their American Board teacher and that they would recommend the program to others. American Board's program, as we mentioned before, provides local career professionals who already have a bachelor's degree in a subject other than education, or I think as previously discussed, maybe that aligns with the subject area they would like to teach. But it provides them with a quick and affordable pathway to teacher licensure. And really, American Board's mission is to help schools cultivate their own teachers from their local communities. On average, American Board candidates are 39 years old. And so traditionally, alternative candidates do tend to be older. They are normally career changers, military veterans or their spouses, stay-at-home parents who are returning to the workforce, and a category of candidate that we do see a lot and that I think is really important to point out are substitute teachers, paraprofessionals, and teachers working on an emergency license. So these are people who are in your classrooms already, teaching every day, who know your kids, who are clearly familiar with the pedagogy procedures, who know the subject area, but have not been able to complete that full licensure process. American Board's program costs around $1,900 and can be completed in less than a year, depending on subject area. In conclusion, American Board candidates were found to perform better than or equally to traditionally trained teachers in 95% of observed areas. And our teachers have a 97% retention rate at the 3-year mark. And those numbers come from a study done by Drexel University that surveyed over 150 principals across 12 states that American Board operates in. I appreciate all of your time today, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you, Ms. Welch. Thank you so much for being with us. And I have a question, and others may as well. But could you talk a little bit about the issue of accreditation? And my understanding is you're not accredited, but are you on a path to be accredited, or is that something that your business model doesn't include accreditation? Could you speak to that a little bit?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Chairwoman Lowry, for your question. So American Board is not accredited. We have never sought accreditation, and we do not plan on seeking accreditation. We have looked into the process and have found that it just doesn't align with the way that our program operates for several reasons. The first being that our program is designed to take place online. It's really for people who don't have the ability to go to a university every day, to take night classes, things like that. And we have found that the accreditation process does not align very well with programs who operate entirely online. In addition to that, American Board operates in 14 different states, and every state has its own education requirements. And so going through the accreditation process, you have to utilize your overall entire program. And so we are not able to individualize it on a state-to-state basis, like how our program operates. And so the process just doesn't align with the way that our organization operates.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Ms. Welch? All right. Thank you so much again for being here and for waiting patiently for us.
Absolutely.
Have a great day. Ashley, is there anyone else online?
Nope, Madam Chair, that is it.
All right. Unless there's someone else in the room that wants to give public testimony that hasn't yet, we will close public testimony. Committee, We're on Senate File 86. What is your pleasure, committee?
Move the bill.
Bill's been moved by Representative Strzok, seconded by Representative Kelly. Any discussion on the bill? Any amendment? Oh, there you are. Sorry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was just discussion part. I had several things I was thinking about probably should be said here to make sure this discussion, we're all talking on the same level and not past each other. The non-accredited alternative certification, I'm not impressed by that. For all we know, multiple choice questions, AI instructors, credit card, boom, you got your certification. It might not mean anything. Hypothetically speaking, I wouldn't hire somebody based on that. However, it's no secret I co-sponsored a bill that technically would have allowed an 18-year-old with a background check and a pulse to teach. Why would I do that if I wouldn't accept this type of accreditation? I trust the school boards. I trust the superintendents. I trust the principals to hire the best people. I don't think state mandates have evidence of making Wyoming education great. The districts and the teachers do that. I like the idea of freeing up the districts to do what they need. They know the people in their community. And I trust that they will not be putting incompetent people in the classroom. And if they do, they will remove them. I don't want to make this decision for them, which is why I will support this bill.
Thank you, Representative Kelly. Other discussions, questions, possible amendments? Yes, Representative Bratton.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I do hear the concerns about filling certain teaching positions, particularly in CTE. And know there are schools in Wyoming that have a lot of long-term substitutes filling positions right now. This bill specifically has oversight by the PTSB on page 2, lines 11 and 12. And I'm confident in that. I don't see the PTSB lowering any standards. And like Representative Kelly, I trust my school boards to and principals, superintendents to make those decisions on the staff that fits their needs. So thank you.
Thank you, Representative Bratton. Representative Gukamas.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. I'm not really concerned about the quality issues. The way I see it, if in compared to accredited individuals, I believe that the non-accredited would probably face stricter scrutiny before being hired. Because when somebody is accredited, that's just like a blank pass, go, collect $200, you're good. And then you run into situations like we heard in testimony of some of these people don't even know the subject they're teaching. Whereas if it's a non-accredited person, they will face stricter scrutiny by the board, would be my guess, to make sure that they actually can teach.
Thank you, Representative Gukamas. Others like to comment or questions or? All right. Anybody want to suggest any amendments? Seeing none. Sensing an urge to vote on the bill, absent a call for the question.
Question.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys. It's fantastic helping a girl out here.
Waiting for you to understand.
Thanks a lot. Okay, so Ashley, we are voting on Senate File 86. Would you please call the roll?
Absolutely. On Senate File 86, Alternative Teaching Certificate, do pass. Representative Bratton.
Aye.
Representative Erickson.
No.
Representative Guggenmoss.
Aye.
Representative Kelly.
Aye.
Representative Lawley.
No.
Representative Singh has left an absentee vote of aye. Representative Strzok.
Aye.
Representative Williams.
No.
Chairman Andrew has left an absentee vote of aye, so you have 6 aye and 3 no.
Thank you, Ashley. Senate File 86 has passed the Education Committee. And let's talk about who will carry it on the floor. Representative Struck? I can do that. I see your name there as a co-sponsor. All right, if that's all right with you, with the prime sponsor. All right, and I think that concludes our business for today, and we will adjourn. Thank you.